And we are live.
Good Saturday morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bob Kingpin Aries and Baseball Sports Show. Coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm co host Jim Marshall, and alongside I have Bob Kingpin Aries. Say hi to everybody, Bob.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very, 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 very first show that we're doing here on YouTube. It's not that Jim and I haven't had experience doing these shows because, oh my God, I've been in broadcasting now for about 37, 38 years, and Jim is probably just as long.
Pretty close. If you probably don't know the faces, but you do recognize the voices. We have been doing Arizona sports, like Bob said, for a long time. I have hosted a couple of radio shows here in the Valley of the Sun. I won't mention the radio stations now, but we like to talk all things sports that in Arizona, and we'll touch on some national stuff. Obviously, baseball season is starting. We had some news with the Phoenix Mercury. We have the Arizona Rattlers. We have Arizona State Sun Devils. Phoenix Suns
And,
in the playoffs. We just
and
lost a
how
hockey team.
Right, we just lost a hockey team. Can you believe we lost uh, an NHL franchise here in Arizona? And I'm not going to get so much into hockey because it's still hockey in the desert, right? But to lose a team like that, you know, years ago I used to broadcast the ECHL team here, and that was the Phoenix Roadrunners, and that of course was fun. And then we lose the Coyotes, but we got tons to talk about. We've got Diamondbacks baseball, as you mentioned, and one of the things, Jim, I hate to jump right into national news, but what's his name? Holiday. What is
for
the what is
for
that
the
phenom's
Baltimore
name?
Orioles
Yeah.
for the Jackson Holiday.
Do you realize that starting going into today's game, he is batting 37, 0-3-7. Did they bring him up too early?
Well, that's the thing. It's been a nightmare so far. They thought maybe the Orioles have one of the best farm systems around, and he, kind of was the big name in the minors last year. He was one of their top stars and everything. So yeah, you got to wonder: is it 1 for 37 or 1 for 30? But you're right. Did they call him up too early? And that's the question. He was ready to make his debut. The Rangers called up Jack Leiter, and
One
even
game,
though he didn't look good in his debut,
one game.
he's got one game. Right. So, but yeah, I think reasons. They had Adler last year. He struggled a little bit. It took him a while to get going. How about Gunnar Henderson? If you're talking about the Orioles, he was hitting 224 before he got it going. Colton Cowser is another one. He's hitting 115. So before the guys got. So I think it's just a matter of getting used to the pitching. So let's make it a 360 and turn around. How about the sophomore jinx for Corbin Carroll, the Arizona
Yeah, yeah.
Diamondbacks?
Let's talk about our own Arizona Diamondbacks. You're right about that. Is there a sophomore jinx going on? And I wondered if that would happen, or have the pitchers just figured out now how the heck do you go ahead and attack this guy?
Right. He's. I think through last night's game, he's hitting 235. Remember at the start of the season last year, he struggled a little bit, then kind of came on after the All Star break. So you're right. It can be a couple of things. Are the pitchers adjusting to him now? They've seen him already. Um, is it that he's nervous that he maybe wants to show a little bit more that hey, I'm worthy of the Rookie of the Year, and now the next step because people were already calling for him being a candidate for the MVP, and that was before the season started.
Yeah.
The big thing for me with Carroll right now, yeah, it's not necessarily the batting average. Um, 1 home run and 5 RBIs. He's getting on base, got 8 stolen bases, but the slugging, that's a problem too.
Yeah, and well, I think I called it. Before this year started, what I really wanted to ask Tori though in spring training is, listen, now instead of being the hunters, you are the hunted, and every team is ready to take on the National League champions. And so far, starting out this season, it looks that way. Now, last night, you could say that was a different story with them winning 17-1. Um, I think some of the guys that they brought into the fold are really good. I love the third baseman. I think he's really good. He can really hit. Blaze Alexander, who you've been talking about for a couple of years, to everybody in the media who didn't believe you, has been doing really, really well. And he hit a grand slam last night. And I don't even know if we'll ever see Jordan Lawler, to tell you the truth.
No, with his injury, and now you have to wonder how long is Geraldo Perdomo going to be out. But Blaze Alexander, he kind of was under the radar as one of the top prospects. He was in the top 30, but he wasn't one of the that you were talking about. You're talking Drew Jones and Tommy Troy
Right.
and Walston and just down the line. Justin Martinez, who pitched last night, he may have been in the top 30, but nobody was really mentioning him. He had a great spring training, which everybody saw. The only question with him, he looks a little nervous in the field. There was a couple of games where he struggled. They against the Cubs last week. I had mentioned to you, if the Cubs had a bullpen, they would have swept the Diamondbacks. If the Diamondbacks had a bullpen, they would
Yep.
have swept the Cubs. But there were a couple of mistakes that you saw Blaze Alexander make even before the Cubs series. Where he Lourdes Gurriel was calling him off, and it was just a communication problem. They let it go down for a hit. They ended up losing the game. But boy, last night, 22 hits, and he hits a grand slam. Jordan Montgomery looked good in his debut. The 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, the Diamondbacks were hitting 225, and they had scored like a total of 11 runs. Last night, they scored 4 in the 7th, 6 in the 8th, and 2 in the 9th. And just piled it on. So you're talking about Blaze Alexander, Ketel Marte, who you had mentioned needed to get off to a good start because for some reason,
yeah,
Christian Walker always struggles to get it going to start the year, and you really need somebody to pick that up. And Marte has really picked that up. He's got 5 home runs, and he's hitting 345.
Yeah. He's just continuing what he did the end in postseason, last year, and he's been great. But what can he?
Now we have to talk a little bit about sending Jace Peterson down. They designated him.
They DFA'd him. It's like adios.
Yeah, and so they signed Colton Wong, and he's been playing shortstop. How soon before he gets in shape? Yeah, they got Newman going on right now, but I don't know if he's really ready. So are we going to see Marte play some shortstop if they decide to give, Blaze Alexander some time off? They really don't have anybody. That goes to show you how valuable Geraldo Perdomo is. Candidate for the Gold Glove last year, really looked good in the field. Started off really well and then struggled, but then kind of came on. Really no timetable on when he's going to come back. They thought maybe in a couple of weeks. Now they're not really sure. So, yeah, like I said, you have Kevin Newman, but is he really going to be the everyday backup for him? So now you're seeing Colton Wong. We had mentioned Jordan Lawler. I don't know how much longer he's going to be. And then you have Tommy Troy, who's probably their second-rated prospect, but like you said, probably a year away. It's been interesting. They're the hunted now, like you said. They're a 500 team. They're struggling with injuries, though all teams have injuries. The bullpen has already been taxed. Maybe this 17 runs that they got gives them a little bit of a push. Because right now, you look at the National League West, Dodgers have struggled. They're leading the
Dodgers, yeah.
division at 12 and
Yep.
10, but does it take a while when they went out and signed all these stars and all these veterans? It takes a little bit of a while to gel together. So this is an opportunity for some teams, including the Diamondbacks, maybe the Giants, Padres, the Rockies. We'll get to them. It's going to be probably of them. Somebody really needs to take it and maybe 7 out of 10 games and put them in front of it, because the Dodgers are going to put it together.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I did see an article this morning that the LA Dodgers fans thinks that Yamamoto stinks. That was the actual title of that thing. They go, you pay him 325 million for over 12 years. You go, this guy stinks.
And look, we know when some of these guys come over from Korea or Japan, or you're one of the top prospects. We just talked about Jackson Holiday. There's a lot of pressure on these guys. And we know the LA media is very challenging. The LA fans, very challenging. It takes a while for these guys. He's been a very quiet individual, doesn't do a lot of speaking. Not necessarily that he's shy in front of the cameras, but he just kind of takes a step back. And it takes these guys a while to adjust to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, for the Dodger fans, I think just take it easy a little bit, let him adjust a little bit, listen to what the coaches have to say. Everything's gonna work out. But a good opportunity for some teams to put themselves in front of the Dodgers. Similar to what the Diamondbacks did last year. Remember, they were leading the division, and then they ended up going on their dozen-game losing streak, and then Dodgers caught. That's what you got to do. But boy, that game last night kind of makes you wonder. Even the Giant fans are starting to question, we thought we were going to be better than this. We thought we were going to be better than a 500 team. We just have to remember we're 20 games into the season.
Right, very early.
So,
yep.
Yeah, when you hit about the 40-game mark, like the Yankees right now, Yankees have the best record in baseball, them and the Guardians. Who would have thought the Guardians and the Kansas City Royals would be leading? It's probably a safe bet to say that it's going to be a long season for the Chicago White Sox,
Yeah.
Miami
Long
Marlins, Colorado Rockies. So that's the thing. If you look at the National League West, Texas Rangers, Seattle Mariners, LA Angels, Oakland Athletics, 8-12. Who would have thought the A's would be 8-12? Now, a month from now, we'll see how it goes. But don't play too much into the first 20 games of the year. I know the Dodger fans, they thought, we're going to run away with the division. We're going to be 18-4 or, 16-3. No, let everything pan out. But there's been a lot of exciting things going on in Major League Baseball. And let's just hope maybe the Diamondbacks have caught a little bit with their bats and everything. Jordan Montgomery pitched a phenomenal game last night. So we got to decide the Diamondbacks. We know they got Zach Gallen, Kelly. They're going to go out every, maybe 5, 6, 7 games where they're going to pitch really well. Then they're going to have their bad game. Yeah. You need somebody like Jordan Montgomery. You need Brandon Pfaadt to start stepping up. You need Nelson to start stepping up. So if Merrill Kelly has a bad game, you can count on Jordan Montgomery. That's what the Diamondbacks need to find out. I still think they're trying to discover themselves.
Yeah. And we know that Tommy Henry got sent down this week. I never saw anything in him when they brought him up last year, and this year he proved the same thing. So we'll see we'll see what transpires with him. Who do you think some of the Diamondbacks pitchers that they might bring up as the season goes along?
Well, Bryce Jarvis, they got to decide, are they going to make him a starter or are they going to make him a reliever? Getting back to Tommy Henry a little bit, Dre Jameson is gone for the year. And I really felt last year when Jameson got hurt, that kind of hurt the Diamondbacks a little bit more than what people expected. Tommy Henry has an opportunity to be that long reliever. So let's flip the tables a little bit. So you're in the 4th inning and the Diamondbacks have given up 8 runs. You would bring Tommy Henry in and let him finish the 4th inning, maybe pitch the 5th inning, and then move on with some other guys. So I think that's what they're trying to do with Bryce Jarvis now. Slade Ciccone, who's down there. Walston, who's down there. those are a couple of guys that could come up and be starters. So if you're going to make Jarvis a reliever, then you need to look at Ciccone, and maybe he's going to be a starter. So Jordan Montgomery, I think, is really going to dictate what's going to happen with the Diamondbacks pitching staff. I had sent something out the other day. Eduardo Rodriguez, they put him on the 60-day injury list.
Yeah,
Pardon
right,
me for that.
right.
I got injury list.
That's our injury list now for the last few years. Exactly. I
Yeah.
still have the same
So
problem.
they say he's going to pitch. They just say that it's an arm injury. Putting him on the 60-day IL, I know it was to create a spot. I think it was to create an opening so you could have Jordan Montgomery, so you could, maybe bring him up.
Right.
Are we going to see Eduardo Rodriguez at all?
I
So if you're
I
not,
don't
then
know.
you have to decide: is Walston going to be, one of the ones that's going to be coming up? Is it going to be Slade Ciccone? Is
I
Tommy Henry being sent down just to work out his problems, or is he destined to stay in the minors the whole year and bring him up? Brandon
well,
Pfaadt, and you mentioned this last year many times. We knew he was going to be a good major league pitcher. I just didn't think he was ready last year. They sent him down, they called him up, they sent him down, they called him up.
right.
And some of these guys, it just takes a while, and hopefully it panned out and he's going to do well. So that's the thing that the Diamondbacks have to figure out.
Right. Is it going to be the Brandon Pfaadt that we saw in the playoffs last year? I mean, who was definitely lights out. You had mentioned before about some of the Japanese players coming over here and not really excelling, but the Cubs have a pitcher. I'm not even sure how to pronounce his last name. I manga. I
Give it a shot.
omega. Yeah, I'm not sure, but he has come in and really done really well. I mean, the guy's got to actually, unlike a lot of the other Japanese players, he actually has a personality. And even in his introduction to Chicago Cubs fans, he even said in English, "Go Cubs, go." But here's a guy who's really done really well. I'm not sure if he's 2-0 or 3-0 right now. Maybe he's pitching today. Cubs have a doubleheader going on, so I'm not sure if he is pitching today or not. But he's a guy that came over here and made an immediate impact for the Chicago Cubs because the Cubs have some issues, and then we're going to get back into some Arizona sports. The Cubs issues are number one. Kyle Hendricks is done, in my opinion. He shouldn't even
Yeah.
start. He should not start another game. If you want to bring him in and try him as a reliever, fine, but do not start him. He's just a detriment to the team.
Yeah. I had attended the game as a fan the other night at Chase Field, and you and I were, social media back and forth. He looks tired, and maybe the word I'm looking for, defeated.
Yeah,
He looked defeated on the mound. His ERA is 12.71. At age 34, is he done being a full-time starter? 17 innings, 24 runs, 31 hits, 7 home runs.
yeah.
That, I mean, is it because he's not getting the ball on the plate and then he's pressing too hard and he's throwing some bad pitches? 11 strikeouts,
But
and
he's got nothing though. If you watch the games from, and we watch a lot of baseball, right? From the center field camera, he's just grooving everything right in there. It looks like lollipops coming in. He doesn't have a fastball. I don't think he. I'm not sure if he can get above 90. And forget it in the major leagues. You're not. What do you? Everybody can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. I might even be able to do that.
well, and another thing that I thought the Cubs were going to have some great starting pitching, and I didn't expect Hendricks to be as bad as he was. Jordan Wicks hasn't won a game either. He's 0 and
Yeah.
2, and his ERA is 5.5.
Right. Right.
Javier Assad has looked really good for the Cubs, but are you talking every fifth day we're going to get a win out of Javier Assad? What are you going to do with the other 4 losses? And then, like you said, we're just going to call him Shota. So maybe
Yeah.
that's
Shota. Exactly. Yeah.
we'll just call him the Big Shota. But
Love
because
it.
ready for the big show. But having um, Chicago, and you living in Chicago for a long time, they have a big media, but their media is way different than Philadelphia, New
Oh
York,
yeah, yeah.
Boston.
They
So,
they don't attack the managers, right?
right, and they
They
don't,
they they don't put
they're.
those hard questions to them.
Let me ask you, having Suzuki on the team, does that help out? Because he has
Um,
somebody that he can speak with, or do you think it's just
I
being loose with everybody on the team?
I think he appears to be loose with everybody. I mean, I've seen him with Christopher Morel, who I think is not only I think he's a great hitter, right? But
Yeah,
he's a great teammate. He's a rah rah type of guy, and I can see him and Shota communicating quite a bit as much as they can, right? And I think the guy is good for the team. He fits right in. Where you get in that LA team atmosphere and everybody's a friggin' all-star, right? I mean,
right.
I
And
I really don't know how great teammates they really are. I don't really know. And I watch
right,
I
and
watch
it's
I watch the and I watch in that order. Of course I watch the Diamondbacks, the Cubs, and the Dodgers. Those are the three teams that I'll follow fairly closely. And Dodgers aren't starting out too well. But let's look back to Arizona sports because you're a big ASU baseball guy. We are going to be covering the Mercury this year. We're covering the Rattlers. We're going to be doing pregame shows on the Rattlers that you folks can watch us here. And we'll also be doing the Mercury as well pregame shows.
yeah, I'm really excited about, and we got to mention the Phoenix Rising a little bit, last year's champions, and you talk about the,
Right.
you know, proverbial, now the hunted again, and I'm really excited about the Mercury, new coach, whole new atmosphere. It's going to be really exciting to cover the Mercury. I've said it before, everybody says, watching women's basketball. If you compare it to the men's game, you're not going to have fun. It's a completely different style game. We just love the competitiveness of it. Love the WNBA. I'm really
I,
excited about what the Mercury are doing. You
see,
used to cover the Mercury.
yeah, I used to cover the Mercury years ago, and I loved covering the Mercury, and I love the women's game, and I'll tell you the why I love the women's game is because you don't have a bunch of 7 foot tall players dunking the basketball. I
Right.
see. I don't find that skill, but I find it in the women's game. If you want to look at somebody, and I can't believe she's still playing. I think she's 40 years old now. Diana Taurasi, who you've interviewed and talked to many times in your career, and she's still playing great, and she's a playmaker, and she can shoot, and she is fun to watch.
She is fun to watch. And right now, she's probably the greatest female athlete in the WNBA history. I mean, you can't not say female, just the greatest. Now we have Caitlin Clark that's coming in, and it'll be interesting to see how that's going to pan out. But
We'll
Diana
see how she
Taurasi,
does.
she's just been consistent every year. You mentioned ASU baseball. I have credentials for ASU baseball. Willie Bloomquist being the head coach. It's going to take a year. I would like to see this team finish above 500. You could say the same thing down to U of A. Having Chip Hale, having Willie Bloomquist. You need to get guys that were former players. Kenny Dillingham being affiliated with ASU football because we saw the sanctions that were handed down yesterday for ASU. It's 4 years. That's going to be some tough sanctions. This NIL licenses has really changed college football, and you need some stability in there. Talking to Willie Bloomquist, the NIL has even affected the baseball. They got one of the top recruiting classes last year and a top recruiting class this year. I've been saying it for a long time. The last time they won a College World Series, 1981. So you're talking 43 years. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. But things are very bright for ASU baseball. ASU football, yeah, Rashada just decided to transfer into the transfer portal. Maybe he saw that he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback, or Georgia has offered him something because it looks like he's going to Georgia. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking ASU football. We got Grand Canyon in their basketball program, their
Yep.
baseball program. So there's a lot of sports in the Valley. Sorry to see the Coyotes go, but maybe in 5 years that they've been promised that they would get a team back. They got to figure out the situation. You could go back, Bob, when you were covering it, before we wrap up the show. We knew it was doomsday way back when they lost the Los Arcos deal. If they could have had the
I'm
Los
sorry.
Arcos deal
I'm sorry. You
way
broke
back,
up. You
that
broke
means
up right.
stability to the team.
Right. You broke up right there. Could you just repeat your point?
The Los Arcos deal is really what was doomsday for the Coyotes. When they
Was that
lost out on that deal way
that
back when,
was that in Scottsdale? Is that what that was?
that was the one in Scottsdale, long before the Glendale deal,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what everybody knew.
That's
It's just
right.
a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
So then, the Tempe deal, the voters didn't, they went out and they voted and they said no. I think they're going back and they wish they would have maybe voted yes on it, because what's going to happen to that landfill? But that's for another time. Sorry to see the Coyotes go. They're going to Utah. You kept the
Yep.
Coyotes name. The
Yep.
Tucson Roadrunners are going to play at Mullet Arena, and ASU's got a solid hockey program. So the 5 years will go by quickly. We just have to wonder what really is Alex Murillo's plan in this whole ordeal. I think he is a little inconsistent on what he promised the fans.
Right. And he says that he's still the best chance of them getting a franchise back here, or is that Bettman saying that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Bettman has promised, because he says, look, we can go by all the stats that we want, but it comes down to is nobody was going to drive out to Glendale. Nobody was going to support a team on a Thursday night when a game didn't start until 8:30. If you win, they're going to go out there. You got to find the stability. But this is shown ever since the Coyotes have been here. ASU built a hockey program. Greg Powers has a dynamite program out there. You've seen high schools that never had hockey before. Now you have multiple schools that have hockey.
Yep.
And the fastest growing sport in the Valley of the Sun right now is hockey. So it will work in the desert. You just need stability, just like
Yep.
everything else. If you have a stability in the ownership and he believes in the program or she believes in the program, it's going to work. It's going to take 5 years now, but
Yep.
let's hope the 5 years go by quickly for the true Coyote fans.
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot to talk about today. We were all over the board, which is kind of fun. That's the way that
It
we
is kind
want
of
it,
fun. Well,
and we do want you, the listeners of our Saturday show, and we're going to be doing this every Saturday. I think we're actually going to be changing our time though, and I think we should mention that now. I think we're going to be going from at least 9 to 10 at this portion, and as we get into all the other seasons and so forth, we might even stretch that out to 2 hours. But right now, we're going to do an hour every Saturday morning, starting at 9 a.m. here in the desert, which is Pacific time this time of year. And but we hope to get viewers from all across this country.
right, because everybody wants to talk sports, and like you said, we'll come up with a good itinerary. We'll have a good show plan. This was just an opportunity to get out here and let everybody know that you got some diehard sports people out here, and you got two hosts that love talking sports.
That's it. So, with that, Jim, I'm going to let you wrap up this show, and then I'm going to knock off of YouTube.
Okay, we're gonna wind it down and let everybody know you got the Phoenix Suns. They're going to start their playoff run today. We didn't really get a chance to talk too much about the Suns.
Right.
We'll see what Bradley Beal handling the playmaking guard abilities. Got the Diamondbacks have a game today at 1 o'clock as well. So busy time in the Valley of the Sun, and we thank everybody for tuning in to the Pro Sports Radio and Pro Sports Broadcasting Sports Show with Bob Aries, Jim Marshall, aka Kingpin Aries, and aka Basebald. We'll talk to everybody next Saturday. Bye for now.
Take care, everybody. Okay, we're off of YouTube.